Hello, I'm Jim Demmer with Clark County Close-Up. Thank you for meeting with us today.
Good to be here.
Well, let's first start with finding a replacement for you. You've been serving as the interim manager since July 2017. What's the latest on the search for a county manager?
Well, here's the story. There is a search. About 2 months ago, there was a hopeful conclusion. There were final interviews, and the council just was not ready at that time with the people that were interviewed. And they really want to get this right and hire the right person. At the time, I told them, you know, if you don't find the person that's right, I will hang in there and serve until you find someone. So interviewed a couple of very, very good people, but it just wasn't the right person. So the county's gone out again with another recruitment, have some really good applicants. Just before I arrived here, I was looking at the resumes, and they'll discuss those over the next couple of weeks, arrange final interviews mid to late May, probably.
Okay.
The theory is that, say they finalize it towards the end of May, and there'll be someone on board maybe a month after that, maybe the end of June.
Okay.
So I will hang in there till then.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So why don't you give us some brief, because it's a 15-minute interview, budget background. Where does the county revenue come from?
Well, the Clark County budget is divided up into, I guess we call them buckets of money. And each bucket is designated for a very specific purpose. Fund accounting arranges money into these buckets, these pots, to protect that the money will be used in the proper way. So there's one large bucket, and that is the general fund. And then there are many, many other buckets that then protect that money will be used. So the general fund budget is the big one. You have the road fund. That's for the public work, for the maintenance of the roads. You have other very specific purpose buckets as a real estate excise tax. Couple of those designating that tax for very specific purposes. So where we are with the budget, let's divide it in two. The general fund is challenged. That we're projecting a shortfall. If we currently do what we're doing today, going into the next year, we will be short of money.
Okay.
Many of the other funds are in pretty good shape. For example, the road fund. It's very project oriented. We do have the maintenance of all the roads in the unincorporated part of Clark County as part of that, but there are a lot of building of new roads. When I say new roads, not blazing through the wilderness, but taking roads and improving them, making them wider, improving intersections and that. So very project oriented. So we have a little more flexibility. The costs aren't as fixed in the road fund. Another fund that supports the permitting process, development process for community development. Development is booming, and the permit fees have been good as a result of that. So then that money in turn is used to staff the permitting process, mainly staff, but there's some software and technology in there that does that too. Again, that's in good shape also. So a lot of our designated funds were in good shape. It's the general fund that funds, probably the main funding is the judicial justice system. So, and the sources of the general fund, three major sources. One is property tax, and that's a property tax levy throughout the county. Regardless of where you live, you would pay a property tax to the county. The second source is sales tax, and that's a tax collected only in the unincorporated area of the county. And then the third source is just, I guess that's a miscellaneous category. A lot of the fees, when you go to court, you pay a filing fee, various permitting, there's separate funds from that, but a lot of user fees go into that third category.
Okay, so let's focus on the general fund. For you to say, where does the budget go? Where's the majority of the budget for the general fund go to?
It goes to the judicial justice system. And what that includes is Superior Court. That's a court that deals with serious crimes, with felonies. If you read the paper in the morning and there's, I think this morning's paper, there was a gentleman on the front page of something that's very serious. That is adjudicated through the Superior Court. Civil lawsuits over a certain value, I don't recall the number at this point, but significant. You get into a lawsuit over something of a large dollar amount, that will go through Superior Court. Divorces go through Superior Court. Crimes with juveniles over a certain, well, no, that's civil, criminal activities by juveniles, and there's actually a separate division for juvenile court. So you have the courts. That's a big part of it. Then you have district court, and district court is for a lot of traffic violations go through district court. A lot of lesser crimes, not that there is any crime that's of lesser, but maybe the dollar amount involved in it. But pretty high volume activity there, a lot of transactions, like I said, traffic, a lot of traffic courts, DWIs go through district court. I'm getting into a territory where I'm not a total expert on, but I believe domestic violence goes through district court. So the two different district courts, and then surrounding that, that's kind of the center focus, although not the most important. They're all very important. Then you have the systems that deal with the courts, like the prosecutor's office. That's where, say, the City of Vancouver Police Department arrests someone regarding a crime. They work with the Clark County Prosecutor's Office to then put together a case, or charges are then filed against an individual. And then, so the county prosecutor's office puts together a legal case to prosecute, to penalize the individual, whether they pay a fine or they serve time in jail, or even a longer sentence in the state prison. So you have that, but then also the state constitution guarantees, because of the Gideon decision, that everyone should have fair representation if they're charged with a crime. So Clark County provides legal representation to folks that don't have resources, and that's our indigent defense program. We currently have attorneys, private attorneys we contract with to provide a public defender, and that's the theory behind this is you're a person of not very much money and you get picked up for a crime and you're charged, and maybe there was a mistake made in that process, and so then you're allowed an attorney to be your advocate in court to say, hold it, maybe there's some facts here that need to be known. So you have the prosecutor, you have the indigent defense, you have the Superior Court, you have the district court, you have the Sheriff's Department, large Clark County responsibility. The Sheriff's Department runs the jail. So as you go through the story, someone's arrested, say they're arrested by the City of Vancouver police officer, the prosecutor puts together a case, then they are represented by a public defender. Oftentimes they're in jail before they even go to court. So it's a pre-adjudication period. Say generally when people are dangerous, maybe they have prior crimes, so they sit in jail. Clark County pays for that. So then they're adjudicated. Maybe they did commit the crime. There's a trial. They're sentenced to, say, 6 months in jail. So Clark County pays for that time where they're in jail. Generally speaking, people in the Clark County jail are there for less than 1 year. So both people before they've gone to trial and after they've gone to trial. I guess there are exceptions to that. Sometimes trials, the whole adjudication process takes longer than a year, and so people end up spending more than 1 year there. But generally, if a sentence is beyond 1 year, they serve time in a state institution. So that system, there's a lot of administration. The county clerk is the administrative arm that supports the Superior Court. There's a lot of technology. There are a lot of records. There's a collection of evidence. These are all, unless you've been associated with a crime, possibly a victim, you're really not acquainted with that. But that system is there, and it costs a lot of money, and it's difficult to decrease that level of service.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, another part to that system is the medical examiner's office, and that's where when a crime is involved, you have staff of the county that investigate the pathological aspects of the victim, the deceased victim. There's some also responsibilities, not criminal related, where a death, there has to be a review of death that is involved. So it's when someone dies and there's a cause for the medical examiner to be involved, it's difficult to say we just can't do that. It's required by state law. So that system is very demanding, driven by state law, and the county doesn't have a lot of say over, well, we just can't do that.
Yeah, right. Okay. So given that, in the midst of the economy does seem to be doing better, what's the revenue outlook look for the county? You said it's for the general fund.
For the general fund. The revenue outlook is stable, especially those three sources of revenue: property tax, sales tax, and then the kind of the other category. Property tax, by state law, the county is limited in the general fund to only collect 1% above the prior year.
Okay.
There are a few mathematical exceptions to that. When a new subdivision or a new entity is built, that can be added kind of above that, but we're getting into technicalities there. But generally 1% above the prior year. So that's a limitation. Sales tax is very strong. We're looking at not double digits increase, but more than just a couple percent, somewhere in the 5, 6, 7% range over the prior year. The challenge with sales tax is it's the term the economists use, it's very elastic. It can go up very quickly and it can go down very quickly. So we have to be very cautious on dedicating that revenue source to a program, to supporting a program, because it can drop, as it did during the recession. So back to your question of how does it look? It's okay when you add everything together. It's here, and the projected expenditures to do exactly what we're doing today is a little above that. So there's a gap there. We're facing a gap in the funding. A lot of this expenditure is driven by staffing costs, and the challenge with staffing is Clark County. A couple of things. One is to be competitive, to attract people to work at Clark County, we need to pay what the market's paying people. We have a lot of high-skilled people working at Clark County, and to keep them there, to attract them, we got to pay what they're paying in Portland, Oregon. Some professions we attract from the Seattle area, some even from outside the region. So, we could, possibly hold the line on compensation. And we've done that in the past. Though then we could lose good people because of that.
And when you capped at that 1%, that's where you don't have much playroom.
You take our technology services department. It's highly competitive in terms of staffing, in terms of attracting good IT people. And they all know what the market is. And unless we're paying the market, if we say, you know, we only get a 1% property tax, so we only can give a 1% cost of living, and they're saying, well, you know, Hewlett Packard, they're paying, I don't know,
Right,
you know,
right.
maybe they're paying less, I don't know, but in a competitive hot market, technology, you got to pay the going rate. They're gone. They're out the door. And you could say the same thing for a lot of the disciplines that we have. That technology services are development related professions, engineering, where you have to have a certification, a degree, a credential to evaluate things. We have a lot of attorneys that work for the
Sure.
organizations. So a lot of these high-skilled people, they'll look. I mean, we have a lot of loyalty, a lot of long-term people, but to say we just can't pay you more, law enforcement. I mean, there's police departments throughout the region, throughout the country, are recruiting trained law enforcement. You have the sheriff's department. I'm sure those sheriff's deputies, they know what the wages are in the region, and they're being recruited throughout the region.
Sure. Okay. We're almost out of time, so I'm going to just jump ahead. Jump ahead. So part of this, to deal with this upcoming development of the 2019-2020 biennial budget, you talked about, because of this potential shortfall coming, you're going to be doing some targeted solutions as opposed to across the board kind of cuts. Could you kind of explain
Sure.
what that?
Yeah, the budget process, we have to have adopted budget by the end of this year, by December 31st. It's kind of the three phases. The first, we're doing a discussion phase. We're talking with every departments about, you know, what's going on. We kind of have a list of potential reductions, but we want to talk to the departments about that, the elected officials, the departments. So we do that kind of first phase, spring. Summer, we start pulling together the numbers so we know very closely where we sit. We put together then a recommended balanced budget. The county manager does that. And then in the fall, late fall, October, then October, November, then the county council will consider that and adopt their budget.
And so typically you have the budget hearings early December?
More like November. So the public will have a chance in November to voice their opinions. Anticipated impacts of this balancing. There will be, I would say, some service reductions. Things, you know, as I described the criminal justice system, judicial justice system, not every person will know that there will be services that will be lessened. So the average person may not see that, but I don't know at this time. Yeah, we're in a kind of research mode right now. As you said, a targeted approach where we have some things we're looking into, talking with the elected department heads, talking with the appointed department heads. What are the potential reduction areas? How can we be more efficient? You know, what are some services we need to review that, you know, maybe its time has passed. Maybe that was good 10, 20 years ago. Maybe it's something that could be reduced.
Okay. So if people want more information about the budget process, sounds like it's going to be going all year long. They can go to the Clark County Budget Office, 397-6097.
Correct.
And the website, clark.wa.gov/budget. And then, of course, if they want to follow up with the county counselor's office, go to the hearings, those will all be advertised.
County manager's office.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you very much for meeting with us.
Thank you, Jim.